Okay, so for this video we're going to take a look at the difference between heavy hits and Jing striking. You've got two reasons why you would do it. So first of all, the heavy hit is so you can get a nice big impact and hopefully you can finish the fight with it. The Jing striking has a different application. The Jing striking has a different application. So the idea of hitting with Jing is that you're trying to percuss the strike into the person's body to create the same kind of damage that you would with a heavy hit. The reason why you do the Jing though is so that your opponent doesn't move very far, and this means that you can follow up and you can hit them more. Obviously, if you throw a nice big right hand and you can knock your opponent down with that, then that's all good and it's all done and dusted, and you can be on your way. But if you feel like it's going to take a little more or your opponent's that much bigger than you, then the Jing comes in really useful because you get the same level of impact on your opponent, but because the force is slightly different, it means that you get to strike them and they don't move very far. So you can keep on repeating these Jing strikes as you move in, and then you get the opportunity to then throw your heavy hit. Or maybe one of the Jing strikes will be enough to take them down. So I'll just show you the difference between the two. If we just take a basic punch, so off the right hand, if I'm going to hit heavy, then I'm just going to follow through and I strike straight through the pad. So the difference with this is that it becomes slightly more of a push. Even though it's traveling very fast, I'm striking it hard, I follow through and my hand continues. So I'm looking to push straight through the pad and probably hit to about here. And that's what's going to cause the damage. So you've got general displacement. The person who you strike is obviously going to take all of the impact and they're going to travel backwards. The only problem is then, if I strike the pad and I've got to follow it, then I've now got to move my body in and I've got to keep chasing that target to keep hitting it. Okay? The difference in Jing, I'm looking to aim just slightly beneath the surface and I'm going to whip, which means that the power stays within inside the target, but you don't get the same reaction. Okay? So with a focus mitt, you'll find that you do get the pad moving, but obviously if you are hitting something a lot heavier, then you can see the difference. So if I was going to hit with Jing, you see, you don't get the same kind of traveler that you would do if you were to follow through with your punch. The punch is just as fast, it happens the same, but what happens is that as I snap on the end of that punch, it means that the energy stays inside the person and I don't take any of that back in feedback. Okay, so I'll do a couple more. Okay, so I'm making contact with the pad and then I loosen off my arm and I draw it back with my waist. The two different types of strikes you use, one I wouldn't say is better than the other. They're both useful for different times when you're going to be using them in self-defense and training. It just depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you get that free shot and you can line it up and you can strike straight through, then by all means follow up and just send that power straight through the target. If you get into a close trapping range and you don't have quite the same freedom of movement, then a little Jing strike is going to be able to send a lot of power into that target, but it means that you get a second go or a third go at following up with that strike.